Expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I am Shannon Penrod and so excited to be here. As you can see, we are joined by the fabulous Lisa Ackerman from TACA. She's the founder of TACA and has been at TACA making amazing things happen now for how many years has it been?
25.
25 years, which is truly amazing. If you don't know TACA, T-A-C-A, you can go to tacanow.org. They're the Autism Community in Action. They are the largest parent-driven advocacy group and information group. I don't even know if you guys describe yourselves that way, but I find that to be true of you guys. They have the best website. I've been doing this for 14 years and we try to get information and put it out to you guys, but I said in the beginning, we'll never catch up to them. They have the most amazing website. If you're looking for autism information, it's where I would start. And then don't have any plans for a couple of days because you can go very far down the rabbit hole on their website. And this is all because Lisa is an amazing parent who decided that she needed more information, and she has pulled together a team of people unlike any other. If you've never been to a TACA conference, you need to go. Or if you've been to another conference and you've seen the small army of people that come in wearing TACA t-shirts who look like they're having more fun than anybody else because they are, then you know what I'm talking about. So thrilled that Lisa is here. You know, usually when we have a guest on, we do jargon of the day. We're talking about stuff that's so important that we're foregoing that today, because we're going to be talking with Lisa about prevalence, and she's going to give us the 411. I know we had Lisa on. We recorded with her in March for her April appearance, and we made sure that we said we think that the new prevalence numbers will be out, but they weren't by the time we recorded, and we'll come back with another show. This is just us keeping our promises here. So we're finally going to dig in with forks and knives and figure out what the numbers were. I do want to say that we're still doing it remote because our studio is still in process. Very excited though to be in there this afternoon. But a couple of quick housekeeping things. We are live right now on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. So if you are watching on those sites, please feel free to write into the chat right now. Both Lisa and I are able to see if you guys write in any questions, and we love to get your questions. I also want you guys to know that we are live right now on those channels and will be available on those channels as well. Don't forget that we have two very robust YouTube channels, one that's Autism Live, the other one that is Ask Dr. Doreen. Please go and visit to watch and hear. You can see and hear video and audio when you're watching on YouTube. Obviously, we're on Facebook as well, but those, as you know, those the live things that we do kind of cycle on, and they only let you have a few of them up at a time. So if you're looking for something that happened in the past, do visit our YouTube channels. We know, though, that most of you like to listen to us in podcasts, and that's wonderful. And we are available as a free download pretty much wherever you can get your podcasts, certainly wherever you can get them for free. That's very important to us. It is a free download. Of course, you guys, everybody here knows there's no free lunch, right? There is a cost for it, and we defray that cost by having advertisers. We hope that you, when you hear an ad playing during your podcast, that you go, woohoo, they paid for this, so I don't have to. But if that, for whatever reason, and some of you have written to me and said, I'm on the treadmill, I don't want to go yoo-hoo and listen to the advertiser, there is a way to download it ad-free. It is a small monthly cost of $5 a month. All you have to do is go to glow.fm/autismlive. glow.fm/autismlive. It's $5 a month, and you get everything we do at the Autism Network. That's Autism Live, that's Ask Dr. Doreen, that's Let's Talk Movies, that's absolutely everything, including today's hyperfixation. And it will, whenever we are doing a live show or premiering a show that's been pre-recorded, it will automatically show up in your inbox and it will be ad-free. So we hope that you will check that out. So once again, I want to get right to it because there's so much to cover, and I'm sure that you guys have questions. I know I have questions. And I think, Lisa, I'm a little bit glad that we had a pause and didn't get to talk about it right away, because I don't know about you, when they first come out, I shut down for about 24 to 48 hours because I have an emotional response. I, who am not in that place anymore where I'm constantly panicked about things and what's going to happen and what will become of us, I kind of have an emotional moment when it comes out. Is that, I know you're kind of different. You are action woman.
No, 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 no. Shannon, you and I are sisters when it comes
Mm,
to that. I always think with this number, so many more people will care because
mm,
it's such a big number.
mm,
Um, and when I hear slight increase, and people who have a corporation would kill for 17% increase in revenue. To see 17% increase in 2 years with a childhood disability is not something you want to see. And even though we love our kids, we love every person with autism, we know that's just more people that have needs that often are being overlooked or not addressed. And that's what's hard. So I'm with you. I fall apart too. So
yeah, and for me, I just kind of get a little paralyzed. I have to be honest with you guys. Like, I know everybody was like, you haven't said anything, and I'm like, I don't. What would I say? Um,
yeah,
so, but now there's been a little time, and I think it is important that we talk
yes,
about it, that we, more than anybody else, that our community understands these numbers, because
hmm,
there's so much misinformation about everything under the sun. We need to be informed because people are going to ask us,
correct.
what do these numbers mean? And my goodness, we had movers asking me questions the other day. You must have this times 75, because I don't go out of my house very often. Let's be honest, right? I'm a homebody, and COVID just, forget it. But but I go to the bank once a year and stand in line because I do everything online now. But I stand in line, and the person behind me starts talking about autism without me wearing a T-shirt or anything.
Yeah,
It just ends up happening. I make a customer service phone call before they know in the office. They're like, "At what point is it about autism?" Right? So we need to be informed so that
correct.
we have something to say when people ask us, because they will ask us. So
Uh,
where would you like to start?
Oh my goodness. So just acknowledging that behind every diagnosis is an individual, a
Yes.
person, someone we love. So I always like to start there. And unfortunately, it's not a perfect census. So it's a survey, and this time it was 16 states. So the new rate is it went from 1 in 36 to 1 in 31, 17% increase. And I'm looking at my notes here just because I want to be very as accurate as I possibly can be. 3.27 or 3.2 of all 8-year-olds born in 2014 have an autism diagnosis. That is a very high percentage. In California, that jumps to almost 6%. It's a 384% increase when the CDC started calculating the statistic in 2000. The staggering thing is 4-year-olds are 1.7 times more likely to have autism or eligible for diagnosis at 4 years. And that's changed significantly from years ago. And what we're seeing is that means we're seeing more kids with autism coming at a younger and younger rate. Chris, if you don't mind pulling up chart 1. So what's really important about this chart, it used to be autism was surveilled and looked at before 2000, just being watched as a very rare condition that affected children. In 2000, they started to do an in-depth prevalence survey. And that's when we started to see the number. So Jeff, my son, was diagnosed when the numbers were at 1 in 500. And we've seen just a steady increase ever since, with no end in sight. Now we're at the 1 in 31 as reported by the CDC. Chart 2, which is also really important. How is that calculated? Well, thanks for asking. You see the birth year for each prevalence survey, the survey year, which does take some time, and the analysis. They're making that window as shorter and shorter as possible. But I just want everyone to have the facts. This is 8-year-olds only. Looking at everybody in this survey of 1 in 31 was born in the year 2014. And people always go, hey, is it really, really increasing? Is it just the CDC that's really good with all the fingers and toes? No, no, sir, no, ma'am. If we could bounce to the blue chart, chart number 3. Chris, you're awesome, by the way.
Yes, he is.
This is the California Department of Developmental Disabilities, and showing the rapid increase. And again, not to make jokes or parallels, but if we were in corporate profits, this would be fabulous to see a chart go up like this. This is a chart of people needing support and care. Now, what I always like to stop and talk about this particular chart, these are the kids in the state of California in school. We know so many, I mean, you and I, Shannon, know so many people that can't be part of that chart, can't get to school, have no ability to be in school. So thanks, Chris. That's a great way of just sharing. Yes, autism is on the rise. It's increasing. And what we know firmly is that it is a condition that affects mostly males. 1 in 4 are male. And right now it's 1 in 20 boys nationally, 1 in 12.5 boys in the state of California.
Yeah. That one, I'm glad that I didn't hallucinate that. I mentioned the other day when you were going to be on that was the number that I wanted to talk about, that I saw in those initial days that kind of started my descent into paralysis in that 48 hours. When I saw that, I couldn't breathe for a minute. And then I haven't been able to find it since. So thank you for telling me that I wasn't completely left field.
You're not crazy. You're definitely reading it right. And I think what's another staggering stat is rates are rising fastest among children of color now. That's Asian Pacific Islander, Black, Hispanic, and biracial are now outpacing white children. And that's just a demographic statistic. It's not me targeting or doing anything. It's just reporting the data. And that is staggering. So there, and again, we often hear in the news that it's the better diagnostics, broadening the criteria. Well, there's no evidence to demonstrate that's what's happening. I love Dr. Walter Zaharodny, who's the principal investigator around the CDC. He gets asked that question all the time, and this is a quote from Dr. Walter Zaharodny out of Rutgers, New Jersey Medical School. He said, the conventional answer, which has been given ad nauseum for the past 15 years, is that this is a gigantic increase due to either better awareness of autism or shifting definition of autism. Neither of these are correct. I feel like I'm in a bad epidemiological version of Groundhog Day. God bless Dr. Zaharodny. Yeah. And I do too. I'm with him. I don't know what character I am. It's not a romantic comedy, and it's not even a comedy. It's a concern. And if we don't mind going to the next chart, the yellow one, chart 4, this is what, how do I say this? Shannon, you and I got most paralyzed by this. We used to say now we're just picking up and diagnosing the quirky kids that will turn into scientists or Bill Gates later on in life, and that's not the case. What we're seeing in this chart is in this last survey, we're seeing a higher prevalence of individuals that have the highest needs, that have an intellectual disability, IQ under 70. Now, Dr. Grampuchet and others would say IQ is not the right testing, but it's the only instrument we do have, and it's been consistent since the surveys started to come out. We're seeing a higher increase in people with the highest needs. And then if you go to the next chart, the last blue chart, which is not part of the ADAM survey, this is just how we were surveilling autism prior to the ADAM survey in 2000. And that's the CDC official survey, where this chart talks about showing us people with an intellectual disability by birth year. And again, IQ, we can talk about it. It's not the best tool, but it's consistently used. So we can show consistently over time, starting from 1957 to 1993, we're seeing a pretty standard rate of people with autism and intellectual disability by birth year. And those show where they actually did censuses in particular markets like Wisconsin, Utah, North Dakota, and Minnesota. And then you see the ADAM survey from the CDC with 8-year-olds, and we're seeing that number rapidly increase. So my goal in sharing these charts, and thank you for being my Vanna White, Chris, that is just what's staggering is the number of people with autism not only are being diagnosed more often, but they're also having a higher set of needs. And as a mom, it's Mother's Day yesterday, and as a parent and as someone who's concerned about having the right resources for everyone that needs help, I'm deeply concerned by these statistics. So I'll stop with my rant. And hi, Shannon, how's it going?
Oh, I mean, that's not a rant, but at all. So you have permission to actually rant. I just want to give personal perspective of that. When my child was diagnosed, it was one in 110. And I remember saying, we actually have video of me saying 1 in 110 is different when the 1 is your child.
Yes.
Right? But I remember talking with my mother about all of this, and I went on a rant about how there has to be better information, there has to be stuff on the government level. And my mother said, I know because it's happening to you, it feels very personal and but there's other things going on in the world. And I said, what number does it need to be for you? And I've heard you say this many times. What number does it need to be for people to get concerned, for people? And I remember there was a year when there was some scientist, I wish I could remember who and what year she said it would happen, but she said, by this and so date, it will be 1 in 25. And I remember everybody thought she was whack-a-noodle.
Right.
And when it went to 1 in 31, I was like, oh, that is perilously close to 1 in 25. And when we consider that it's 1 in 12.5 or whatever number in California, we've already passed that. It does make me ask the question, what number, when everybody goes, oh, maybe we should do something about this. Maybe we should ask different questions. Maybe we should. And here's a question that I did not look up, and I'm going to put you on the spot here, but it's okay to say that, it's a big document and that maybe you don't have it all memorized.
Not yet. Still metabolizing. Those are the high points, but go for it. What you got?
But my question, because I did get paralyzed after I saw that 12 point, whatever the number was for California, for the longest time, it seemed like the highest number was in New Jersey, but is California now the highest?
Yeah, we're number 1, and Jersey's number 2. Which is not something you want to be doing. And there was a really exhaustive study by the UC Davis Mind Institute, and they tried to identify as just everyone moving to California because it's so cool. We have, great beaches, etc. And because there's services, and that study demonstrated that's not the case. It's not people moving to California for services, because I'll tell you, there's about half the people in the state that are not happy with the level of services, and there's a portion of people that are happy. So it's not the best state for services. In fact, I would pick, if I had to pick, Wisconsin or Massachusetts or in the Northeast. They do a much better job at providing support and services than California. So it's not migratory or tied to states, specifically. It's just we have a lot of people and a lot of autism.
That's so interesting because people always ask me, if I'm going to move to a state, which state should I? And it changes. I remember when Utah was a vast, there was just nothing. And now all of a sudden Utah has jumped in terms of services because, people said we need to put something and invested some big money. But you just blew me away when you said Wisconsin. I would have said Massachusetts, but good to know about. But all of it is devastating. All of it is hard to hear. But then, the name of your organization is the Autism Community in Action. So I always look to you. What do we need to do?
Well, I mean, especially with the new administration, it doesn't matter what administration's in office. Everyone's got to work with them. So it's not politics, but there are some bills coming up with Medicaid that could, and Medicare for all ages, $880 billion in potential cuts. The Department of Ed has cut half its staff. Again, it's concerning from the standpoint of 504s and IEPs. We need an agency to monitor what's going on, and the removal of DEI programming. So I think if you have a person or a loved one with autism, I would be in contact with both your state and federal legislators and let them know what services are important to you, whether it's your IEP or access to medical care through Medicaid and Medicare. Again, depends on what age you are. Some parents have both the parent and the child on the different federal level and state level support. So I would let people know what you are using and what is a safety net for your family and what's being missing from your services. And again, it's not politics to say what it is you need. It's really important to make sure your needs are made known so they know what would happen if they made cuts. So I encourage that with 1 in 31, we are seeing this administration set autism as an initiative for the first time. We've been beating the drum and asking for this for years upon years. I think over 15 years was when the first presidential candidate blog came out, and what you need to do to support the community as a federal representative, whether you were a legislator or a presidential candidate, what's needed. I think we all need to be involved, and don't be afraid. It's okay to maybe practice your speech on your neighbor or your sister or brother, but let them know what services you're using and what's super important for your family. Yeah. And with 1 in 31, you're not only worried about your child, your individual, but the ones coming up next. So that's what I would encourage, is be part of the process. Don't be afraid of it. Yeah. Judith Urcity at Profound Autism Alliance does a great job in how she addresses the needs of profound autism, the highest needs population. And Shannon, I encourage everyone to let your needs be known and let your concerns be known.
Yeah, I can't speak for everybody else, but I know when my son was diagnosed, we certainly told our friends and family, like within the first 24 hours. I think I called everybody I knew and said, hey, this is, what the diagnosis is, and we don't know what we're doing yet, but, that isn't everybody. I think a lot of people don't go and tell everybody, but I can tell you, after we told everybody, we kind of isolated. And I was saying this the other day, that I think that there's a handful of people who actually know what the journey was, what we did, what we went through, what we experienced, how hard it was at times, how, financially hard it was. it was, as much as I sit here and talk, I did not talk with my friends about what we were going through. And so it can't be surprising when we have politicians that are making choices for us based on not knowing what's
Right.
really going on in your home. And I think, Lisa, you're exactly right that we need to be speaking up and speaking specifically, and not. I think a lot of people speak to the universe now
Mhm.
online. I see a lot of people that are doing videos and being to the bone honest. And my goodness, I just respect your truth so much. I could never have done that while we were in our intervention. And that's great. But I got to tell you, I don't think these politicians are sitting and watching Facebook Live.
Yeah, they're not. Well, some of them are on TikTok, but it's a few and far between. They're not watching.
Yes.
But I really think as a constituent, it's more important to really share what's important to your family, and to become an advocate, not just at the IEP table, but an advocate at the legislative level, both state and federally.
Yeah. And that means, sometimes you got to start in the very local level. I know we all want to get a message to the our senators, and there's lots of ways to do that, and our
Mhm.
representatives, and to the current administration. There's lots of ways to be heard doing that. There's apps that help you to find, if you don't know who your representatives are. But I can't stress enough how important it is to start at the local level. And you can go to the meetings that are, I've only been able to do it a couple of times since COVID, because that's when somebody explained to me that 9/10 of what happens on the local level. I have to be honest, I didn't get that before, but I get it now. And there's so few people at these meetings. So figure out who your state assembly person is and start following them. They're somebody who's out with their public a lot. And if you educate them, that message gets to the next set of people. Be places where these people go to press the flesh and talk about this agenda and the realities of your life, which is not the same as the person next to you.
Right.
Right?
Right. And I would encourage adults with autism to do the same thing. What if Medicaid is important to you, that you have the access to also the same legislators to talk to and share your story. And I think another appeal that I would love to see, again, if my magic fairy wand was working, I always like to show my magic fairy wand,
I love
um, is that the American Psychological Association in 2013 added every autism diagnosis into one level with DSM-4, how we diagnose autism. And so Asperger's and PDD and OS were removed, and everything got put into one bucket. And I think I wish we could add something like Asperger's back,
Yep.
add, and I wish we could add something like profound autism in.
Yep.
Um, and keep autism levels 1, 2, and 3. I'd be curious if Dr. Grampuchet had the same
Oh,
thoughts.
we just talked about this the other day,
Yeah.
actually. A week ago, tomorrow, we were talking exactly about diagnosis and about this. And of course, she was a huge champion of having it be all under one umbrella in 2013, and thought that would be because it allowed people who had Asperger's to have access to services where before they didn't. But she says now, yeah, no, it's too confusing for people that somebody, well, she gave the example that somebody who's a 1-3 versus somebody who's a 3-1, that they're not even recognizable as same disorder. It's very, and we had a somebody who wrote in and said, can there please be a distinction for adult diagnosed autism?
Mhm.
That we don't want to take anything away from those people, but when you are diagnosed as an adult, it is very confusing to the public because they are thinking about the 3-year-old, and that is a different dynamic. Completely.
Yeah. I wish I could credit who thought of this. It wasn't me, but once you've met one person with autism, it's just one person, one human. And just like our fingerprints, they're all different.
Yeah.
And it really, I think diagnostic specificity would be really key here.
Yeah.
And if the American Psychological Association was listening, and again, we're reaching out to them as well, I think bringing something like Asperger's back and adding in profound autism and having that specific set of tools, that would be more helpful. And it would be more clarity for the public and for the diagnosticians and the clinicians providing support and the medical care professionals providing care. It just would make it easier. And I think it's hard to understand autism's levels 1, 2, and 3. And, that's crazy that you and Dr. Grampiche, I missed that one. We're talking about, that level of autism could be different. But it breaks my heart because, tax dollars and what have you. I think I did the calculations 4 years ago. It was almost $2,000 per taxpayer that you're paying in each year for autism.
Yeah.
So that number is going to keep going up, even though you don't have a horse in the race, maybe. Not highly improbable if you're watching Autism Live. But for a lot of people who say, why should I care? Well, it's going to reflect in your taxes.
This makes me think about the fact that on your website, you have, again, I mean, you should just win all the awards for your website.
It's a team. Remember, it's a team.
Well, but you guys should win awards for it. So on your website, there's so many different things, but there's a basic page about information about autism that has some of the most incredible statistics I've seen anywhere. Things that hadn't ever occurred to me. And one of the things that you talk about is how many trillions of dollars that, I don't know, what is it, the last 10 years that you guys have a statistic for how much it has cost the general public. Not because in the past, what we had always heard was that for a family that between, once your child is diagnosed through their lifespan, that it was going to cost you an additional, I think the number was like $2.4 million.
Right.
For the individual family that you would not have had your child not had this diagnosis. I think that's a really conservative number, and it doesn't take into account
the spectrum.
That spectrum. But I'd never heard the huge number of what it's just costing Joe Public before. How amazing is that?
Yeah, 7 trillion. T, not B, not M, trillion is the 1990 through 2019, what it's cost to our economy and our taxpayers. And I mean, again, I don't like to look at just pure cost. That's not a fair statement. It's also a human, a person, an individual, but that's a lot of money. I don't have that many fingers and toes to count that rate.
Yeah.
And they're expecting that by 2029 we'll be at 15 trillion. So the societal cost is staggering.
And as the number goes up, we can only expect that number to go up.
Yeah.
And on the flip side of that, what happens if we defund some of the things that are supporting these people? Which, that's some of the reason why we need all of you to speak up and say something, because I don't think when people are making these decisions that they understand what's at stake. For instance, right now, we've done a lot, both during the show and outside the show. We have a lot of people writing to us being very concerned. It's IEP season, and it's been one of the weirdest IEP seasons on record. I think because the schools are frightened and don't know what's to come. I keep quoting to everybody that all of the things that I'm reading say that current IEPs are protected. That's very clear in all the language that has come from this administration. But what I'm seeing are parents who were coming in and asking for an IEP for a child who is diagnosed with autism, who is non-vocal, and being told that they can put them in a 504 plan. And I'm hearing that 6-7 times a week, Lisa.
We're also, and again, it's anecdotal. We don't have a study to point to this, and hearing some of that as well. But the other one of new IEPs, when you are signing your new IEP, there's less and less services and supports in it as to and anticipating potential budget cuts for the new fiscal year, which starts July 1st.
Right.
So there's different mileposts as you drive on the road of the highway of life that we're hearing through the support channels that we offer at TACA and through talking to other autism organizations. There is some deep concern as to how IEPs will be funded and what services will remain. They're still happening. IEPs are happening and what have you, but I'm concerned about to the depth and level of which the support is being offered.
Well, I think back, and I wish I could remember what year it was, but do you remember when there was just some legislation in California and Medi-Cal had been paying for instance, ABA, and then all of a sudden Medi-Cal was not being covered, ABA was not being covered by Medi-Cal. And there were all these families that had been, having services for, 6 months or a year. It hadn't been for a very long time. And then all of a sudden, those services were cut. And it was a bleak time. And it was, in my memory, it was like 6 months to fight to get it back, and then another 3 months or so before people started having services. And I can remember one family in particular that their child was making so much progress, and then all of that progress was put on hold for 9 months, which meant there was regression.
Yeah, I forget the year as well, but I think the other challenge that we're seeing is there's 2 staggering wait lists that are happening, and Cognoa did a really great study last year. It came out in January 2024, that the average wait list for a diagnostic was 12 to 24 months across the United States. And then you add on top of that the average wait list for services to start. Now, again, there are some people, they put you on a wait list and it's going and going and you get on pretty quickly, but they're also seeing equally the 12 to 24 months. And when you hear the mantra, early intervention is key, well, what the hell? We're waiting, double the lifetime of that kid to get the diagnosis and then access to care. And so we need to do a much better job. We can accurately diagnose a kid under the age of 2. We can accurately get services going that are unique to that individual's needs. And medical care is available if we could only place that as a priority and have people target and get kids access to that early intervention. We know such great things can happen. But again, I don't want to bum out someone with an 8 or 9-year-old. It works on them too. We know so much more about autism today. We could do such a better job, and looming budget cuts are not the strategy.
Yeah.
We were already behind the 8 ball. I've got an 8 ball over in the corner. We need to, in case I have to make a big decision,
right.
Got to have a magic 8 ball. But it's interesting. I'm seeing Daniel write in a couple of comments about, you can't cut research and defund programs all at once when you care about it. Yes, there are discrepancies, again, not to be political, positive things and negative things happening. I can hold multiple thoughts in my head at the same time.
Yeah.
That we're glad autism is an initiative, and thanks for putting it as a priority, but don't defund things and cut things at the same time. And he also said, his son was switched over to a 504 before he graduated, and they stripped other federal services. So that just it's a very much a tightrope situation. So please reach out through TACA channels. Whether you do the virtual support or in-person meetings or a conference or what have you. Reach out and talk about 504s versus IEPs, and get the support you need just to make sure the services are there. And I mean, I know that, it's so exciting when someone says, you don't need an IEP anymore. You want to dive on that and run with that. But I would tell you to hold on your IEP as long as possible, just to make sure everything is smooth sailing, regardless of when you have an IEP and when your next IEP is going to be. If they say at your next IEP they want to switch to a 504, just say, can we have 1 year consistency and just make sure that these services are not needed before you take stuff away. You can always call a new IEP as a parent at any point in time, and have your services stay in place just to make sure it's smooth sailing before you downgrade to a 504 plan. Sorry for new parents. These are all school district things. IEPs are the meeting and the document. 504s is a step down from that. Less needs and monitoring. IEP is the higher needs, higher monitoring. So I apologize with the alphabet soup we're throwing at you.
They're good at Googling.
Okay.
And we have a whole channel that's just jargon. So if they
Great.
hear a term, they know they can go and that we'll tear it all down for them. And I just want to add my 2 cents. I was always told by our team that, exactly what you were saying, Lisa, that you keep at least one service that forces them to have an IEP until 2 things: that your child is either past the puberty phase, so you don't have any new coming. Like, I love, and I say this sarcastically, when they want to switch to the 504 right when you're transitioning to middle school or junior high or to high school. It's not a good plan, right? And so, we have to, have one service on there, because that's what delineates. There's services on the IEP, there aren't on the 504. And as Lisa said, fight to have that service in place for at least a year when everything is cooking with gas, until you transfer to the 504, because that's the way to best accommodate your child. And I get it, everybody's different, but that's the advice I got, and boy, I was so glad, because something comes up, and as you said, with an IEP, you can always call an IEP meeting and have a discussion. With a 504, you don't even get benchmarks. They're not accountable for a whole lot, and when your child doesn't need that, that's perfect and wonderful and celebrate it. But for a lot of our kids, until they're done transitioning, we should be sure.
Yeah, I like the reminder on the milestones. Elementary is a different world than junior, and junior high is a different world than high. And then college is even another different world. And each of those major milestones, you need support.
Yes. And the hormones play a really important role. I don't ever like to switch to a 504 until we make sure we've crested all of those hormones, because hormones can throw stuff off.
Oh, yeah. I've lots of kids where you go through puberty and things are good, and then other kids you go through puberty and the wheels come off the bus.
Yeah.
So right on.
Well, I mean, listen, it doesn't even matter, what age. Didn't Oprah just do a whole thing about menopause?
Yeah.
Things change when the hormones change, my friends. Things change.
Sure do.
Just
my hair color was different for a long time.
Really? You have such beautiful blonde hair. It
was brown. Yeah.
Really?
I did every color under the sun. I know we're on Autism Live, but yeah, I think I've dyed the pigment out of my hair.
Well, but it's funny, because I always I'm in my marriage, we refer to me as the 80s chick, and my husband is the 70s dude. It really about everything, but especially about music. And I know you have similar taste in music that I do. And my hair has been every color under the rainbow too. But my hair has had at least a little bit of gray in it since I was 17. So I just stopped pretending but I've had, in fact, there was a period of time in which I dyed 2% of my hair bright orange, because they were estimating that 2% of the population could be identified as being on the spectrum somewhere. And everybody was surprised by how visible 2% of my hair was. It did not turn out well, and it looked like somebody had smashed me in the front with a tomato. But now we're almost at 4%. And if you figure that we're at 6 point whatever in California, that's a significant swath of my hair that would need to be another color. And I did that because so many people, it's so funny when you bring up numbers, how people justify numbers and just go, oh, it's not that big, it's not that whatever. And people were like, 2% of the population, we shouldn't be kowtowing 2% of the population. that it wasn't that big of a number. And I wanted to demonstrate, we had a choice. We could do a video about Legos or I could dye my hair. We should have done the video of Legos. But,
well, you know, Dr. Lynch, Dr. I forget what's his first name, Ben Lynch.
okay.
He wrote a book called Dirty Genes, not the genes you wear, but that are in your body, GENES. And he talked about people who gray prematurely, have methylation abnormalities, including methyl B12 and leucovorin and all those things of needing that. So yeah, I've gone through and I've done all that, still dyed the hell out of my hair in the 80s and 90s and 2000s. And I think that just messes things up for sure, pigmentation wise.
Which is in fact why when we were getting pregnant with my son, that's when I stopped dyeing my hair, because I said, if you're going to make an omelet with old eggs, everything else should be fresh. That was what my phrase was.
And I love you so much. That's funny.
Well, I was about to be 41 when he was born. So, you know, we were pushing the upper envelope of what we were going to do. In any case, I digress, as you know that I do here.
That was great fun. Let's digress some more. Now let's talk about 80s music. I'm just kidding.
Well, no, okay. So if there was one band and perhaps one song that, like, if this was played at an event, that we would see Lisa lose her mind and jump onto the dance floor and it would be over. What is it?
Oh, I don't think the dance floor is there. My taste has changed from the silly music I used to dance to, but I'm talking
about when you were younger.
Yeah,
younger.
I'm talking about David Bowie. I just love his music, and I can't remember what I had for breakfast yesterday, but I remember all the lyrics on an obscure side B of David Bowie. So yeah, that to me is just butter. And same thing with U2. I like the band U2.
Well, I was just going to say,
can't do anything wrong.
Mine was U2. Yeah. And they had a song that they put out that wasn't, I think it's on an album now, but it wasn't at the time. It was called The Celebration. Mm-hmm. And I would lose my mind.
Yeah.
And still when I hear it, I probably would try to dance and hurt myself and be taken away in traction.
I couldn't dance before and I can't dance now. So I try not to abuse anyone with that.
You know the Seinfeld episode when she dances? That's really think that it was styled after, because I just have, it looks like I'm having an event, like a cerebral event.
Yeah. Again, sisters. You and I are sisters.
We should go to a concert sometime together. We would have
fun. I would love that.
And you need to know that Chris is concert man. And Chris has the best taste in music. At some point you'll have to, and Chris plays his music. I always say to him, you're just not playing it loud enough. I can't hear it in my office.
Yeah, there we go.
But Chris certainly is somebody who he could hold his own talking music with you.
Yeah, the last one we went to was the Ohana Fest, Dana Point, with Foo Fighters. And some great bands. So yeah, I'd love to go see them again someday.
Very nice. And on the flip side, I was so in love with U2, but before U2 was on the scene, for me, it was always James Taylor. It's why Chris says OMD playing this weekend at the Brookside of Rose Bowl. Oh my goodness. Well,
I've seen OMD 4 times.
Well, I've only seen them once. They were opening, and I don't remember who they were opening for because we didn't stay. My friend at the time was a DJ, and we saw that their bus was leaving, so we hopped in the car, followed their bus to like half an hour away where they stopped to have waffles. So we stopped and sat and talked with them as they had their waffles.
Nice.
One of my favorite things. My son, first song that he ever loved, Enola Gay. There we go. So there we go.
Good
See
times.
How passionate we should just talk about music.
Yeah, I would be all for that. I'm sure some of your, listeners are now like, what are they talking about? We went from a very serious topic, autism prevalence, to 80s music. But yeah, I like the band lineup for this weekend. Well, but I'll tell you, Chris, New Order, not a fun band to watch. They are very boring. I'd
Really?
rather listen to them. They
I've
just
never seen
stand
New
there
Order.
and play their music, and it looks like they could be mannequins.
Oh, how funny is that?
Yeah, yeah. God bless them.
I
Great
did
music,
not
though.
know that. I've never seen New Order, but love their music.
Have.
Anyway, but you know what I love about us talking about that is that I love people being able to see that we are still people,
Yeah.
have a pulse and have a passion, and that our entire worlds don't revolve around autism and our children. I loved yesterday when it was Mother's Day, somebody posted the clip that's from not Sex in the City, but whatever the sequel is, when Charlotte just turns around and says, I am a person. I was a person before I married you, and I was a person before I had you. I had a whole life, and I was capable of doing things without you. Because people forget, I think we forget sometimes. And it's important to stay interested in the things that interest you. And you've found a way to make that work for this wonderful charity that you have, because whenever I listen to Jack FM, they're always quoting TACA and saying things. And I think, don't they do fundraisers for you, or did they used to?
Yeah, unfortunately, the LA radio station K Rock Jack FM, unfortunately, all the casinos are paying top dollar for all the bands. So they can't afford to do the mix-ups and the bands that they used to. So, God willing, they were such a great collaboration partner, and they help us in other ways today. But
They
yeah,
always are bringing you up. Every time I listen, they're like talk a fact or something. It's amazing.
yeah, they're great. We're so grateful for the love and support we get from our community, from parents to corporations to individuals. But yeah, that having that relationship with Jack FM and K Rock probably is like make a wish for Lisa.
Oh,
Basically, I have so much fun with the run-ins and the different bands,
I love it.
from metal to 80s and beyond.
So since we're talking about this kind of stuff, because we're getting close to the end here, and we need to check in with TACA. You've got some stuff that's coming up.
Yeah, we
Tell us,
do.
tell us everything.
Well, there, June 1st, we have our 19th annual Family Carnival, which I love in Orange County. And we have people that drive in from multiple states for it. It's such a great event, June 1st. It's basically get in there, ride all the rides for free. You can buy food optional or just bring in a carnival picnic basket and just enjoy a great day, a family day. And then, of course, we have our 42nd National Autism Conference on October 10th through 12th, which also has a virtual option, recorded option for folks who are not able to travel. And again, we have a great relationship with the Costa Mesa Orange County Hilton, who take very good care of us. And we are also regional center vendored, so people can get access to the conference itself. Excuse me. So that's coming up. But then every month we have the monthly learning series. This month is on speech and communication. So we have recorded material, live Q&As and virtual meetings all tied to that topic in speech and communication. So if that's important to you, we're doing that this month. So every month we have a new topic, and we hopefully by the year end you will have more access to information in all things autism.
And you got something going on tomorrow that we want to let people know about.
What do we have going on tomorrow?
Aren't you having the doctor?
Oh, that interview.
Yes.
Okay. I'm like, oh, see, I don't know what breakfast. Okay. Tomorrow I'm interviewing Dr. Walter Zaharodny from Rutgers University, who is the principal investigator of the CDC Autism Prevalence figures. And I can't wait. So that will be recorded tomorrow and available through all our channels, the blog, podcasts, etc. So, and that you can find on the TACA Now website, and click about TACA, and you'll be able to find that.
Amazing.
Sorry, thanks for being the brains in the operation.
No. It's funny. I can't keep my own schedule, but sometimes I can keep other people's schedules. But that's pretty amazing. And if you found this conversation interesting, tune into that, because Lisa will be asking the intelligent questions and of this amazing expert. You'll get a level that I can't even come up with the questions I'm sure that you're asking.
Well,
So
he want to dive into that profound number tomorrow and get his take. And it's a hard number to talk about, but it needs to get the light of day. We need to talk about the stuff that's not happening in the school districts or in regular environments that we're seeing day to day. There are a lot of families that can't leave their home and need more support, and we need to highlight that and give them all the sunlight, and all the important efforts need to go to help their families, really.
Yeah. I feel like the pendulum just keeps swinging back and forth, but there was a period of time in which, everybody associated autism with Rain Man.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then there were a couple of amazing docs that came out that showed that severe autism piece in a way that was hard to watch. And then I feel like the pendulum has swung the other way. And I love on the Spectrum, and I love watching those individuals. But I think that the general public now thinks that's everybody, even though each one of them is vastly different. I think it's become harder for people that are dealing with the profound autism. And I don't think that Hollywood is telling that story yet in a way that kind of gets to the heart, the way a lot of people are. Listen, I don't want to take away Love on the Spectrum or taking anything away from them, because I love
them.
Watches that and says, oh my gosh, I feel like I have a better understanding, but we're missing a piece. Don't you think?
I do. And I think the best service we can do as parents is to go and talk about our stories. And like you mentioned earlier, the TikTokers and the Instagrammers that are sharing their video vlogs and their stories is wonderful. And I hope that continues, that we see the entire part of the spectrum, including the higher needs and the profound autism. But yeah, every story is important. Every story deserves the light of day, and we need to respect and love. That's why we changed from Autism Awareness Month or Acceptance Month, because we feel everyone needs to be aware and accept. That should be something we do for every human, is accept them where they are and who they are. We shouldn't have to have a month for acceptance, because that should be a basic human experience. We changed it to Autism Action Month, where we take action. And I hope it doesn't end in April. It continues on through all the months, all the way through December, that we take action to talk about our experiences and our needs. So please take that away, and please reach out to your legislator, both state and federally, to make your voice heard.
Yeah, I can't tell you how important it is. And I now am starting to get to know some people that are staffers, and they tell me that it's everything. That when you call, maybe, it's just a hash mark on a page, but when there are a bunch of hash marks, they have meetings where they sit and go, what are we hearing from people? What are they saying? And when there's a bunch of hash marks about something, then all of a sudden that becomes very meaningful, because that's their constituency and they are working for you. At least that's what we're told. I don't know, because everybody lives in a different place. That's what we're told.
Right.
And we should assume that, and we should work that phone line, send emails.
Right.
Sometimes it feels like, but I'm just a hash mark, but the matchsticks add up to a torch and an inferno, and we need to do that.
Oh, I love that. That's a great analogy. And yes, let's light the fire. A good one, not a bad one. Speaking of California, let's not light
good
real
trouble.
fire, but let's cause good trouble and get people to be aware of what's needed and what our concerns are with our children.
Absolutely. Lisa, you're amazing.
You're amazing.
And now Really not, but you're amazing and it's always a pleasure. And thank you for being the person that you are and for breaking it down for us and providing that information on TACA. You know, you have been a guiding light for me. You've been a godsend for me. You've been there when, before I knew you, when things were in the turlet, as they say, and helped me on so many occasions. So then I got to know you, and what a pleasure. And, sometime later this summer, we're going to have your son on, which is a very exciting thing for me. And that's a whole other story.
Yeah.
But you're an amazing mom. I know you're an amazing sister, and just a great person for all of us, an incredible resource for all of us. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Well, thank you. And I want to do a shout out to the team that works so hard to lift me up and keep me going. But it's our community. Let's make the best of it, and let's help each child have that shot at a healthy, happy, independent life.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here. I have a programming note that we're not doing a live Ask Dr. Doreen tomorrow. We're going to be playing a repeat, and I apologize to you, but sometimes Dr. Granpeche needs to be other places, and we have to allow that, right? When it's important, it's important. But we're back on Wednesday, and we're so excited. Amazing guests all this month. So make sure that you're with us and watch tomorrow. It'll be a good one, but we'll be doing a pre-recorded one. Thank you so much, Lisa. Thank you, Chris. Thank you all for watching, and check us out tomorrow. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now.
Bye. Thanks, Shannon. Thanks, Chris.
If you found anything helpful in this video, please give us a like. In fact, make sure that you smash that subscribe button on YouTube and give us a like on Facebook. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Instagram for important updates. And please download our free podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you so much. See you next time.